Wow, it's time for another show full of tips and ideas from the sales growth leadership expert, Dean Akers. Known for his experience in hyper-growing companies and creating cultures for high-performance teams, here's Dean.
Well, welcome to episode 57. Just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in today. Last week's Even Warriors Have a Bad Day or Have Off Days was a well-downloaded episode, and it was a lot of fun, and it resonated with my existing superstars across the country. I got a lot of feedback from the folks I've coached over the years that said they needed that. They needed that kind of jolt reminder that even warriors have their days off. I want to thank everybody that has been ordering my book off Amazon and Barnes & Noble and the various bookstore sites. I'm working on an ebook now. I don't know why I didn't do one before, but I'm working on it. In fact, today we'll be able to talk a little bit about that as far as times and 10 minutes and stuff. And somebody asked me, said, was it cool to get your first book done? And I said, well, this was actually my first book, which has been out for a number of years, which is 52 Wows, which is a relationship guide for men. It's also on Amazon. So, at any rate, I want to remind everybody that if you also don't order the book, but you want it from me, you can get it at book@deanakers.com. Book@deanakers.com. Just send me your address, and I'll have our team put one in the mail to you, signed by me. And then also, if you want one of our customer presentation clothes protectors, we've talked about that on previous shows, I'll send one of those to you too. We've been sending these out. They're popular. The book's popular, but I obviously I like you ordering it off Amazon too. I'd also like to take a moment and shout out to Chris Krimitos and John Dennis. They're the founders of PodFest 2019. This year they have their big convention in Orlando. I was blessed to be invited to share some thoughts there, also to meet other podcasters, thousands of podcasters from all over the world. Huge success, and it really shows what the value in for podcasting is, to reach mediums, to allow listeners like yourself to find these unique shows that can help you out. And again, thanks to everybody out there. I hope again that the fact that you're listening, that you get ideas and stuff that help you both personally and with your career. Today we're going to talk about something that's a little strange, but it's getting your ducks in a row. I know a lot of people. I work with lots of companies, and I have over the last 35, 40 years. And I meet people, and they're always getting ready. And when I had my tire company, when I first came in, our sales team would be like, okay, we're getting ready, Dean. We got to get our brochures right. We got a presentation. This is way before the internet, where you had all emails and stuff. And we were always worried about getting it right before we went and called on the customer. And I kept going, and by the way, most of our tire guys were all fishermen and hunters. And I kind of equate it to the guy that's always getting his tackle ready. He's always making sure his tackle ready, got the best possible lures, and you reach out to him and you go, how you doing fishing? Well, I haven't had time to fish yet. I'm getting everything ready. Then you meet somebody that's fishing on the bridge, and they don't have all the fancy tackle, and they just go fishing. And you go, how's your fishing? And say, look at my bucket. I got 20 fish in here. So always having everything perfect and having all your ducks in a row or your tackle ready to make sure it's perfect is not always the most effective way to have great results. And with that, I'd like to share that some experiences. Like, life is dynamic. I would challenge you to look back on your life after we get done today and ask yourself if where you're sitting today and what you've done today you could have ever contemplated when you were 18 years old of taking the journey you've taken. In my case, I'm going to be 67 this year. I promise you, when I was 18 years old, I would have never dreamt of having an electronic podcast / radio show being heard in 130 countries across the world in my wildest dreams, because technology didn't exist. It would have been nothing I could have ever planned. But my point is life is dynamic. It's very dynamic. And in my case, I've always lived it dynamically. I've always lived to make today special, help somebody with no pay. It doesn't mean I don't plan for tomorrow. It doesn't mean I don't think about tomorrow, but I don't angst about tomorrow. And one of the things is I make sure that I get stuff done because life is dynamic. When I meet with teams, I have teams that'll be working for months getting ready. And I'll go, why are you still getting ready? Well, we want to make it perfect. I said, get in your car and go see the client. One of my ninjas had been working a company for 7 years and never gotten anywhere. And we were talking about it one day. I said, go meet them. Well, I don't have an appointment. Go get in your car, drive there, ding dong the gate, and have them throw you out, but go meet them. He went up there. They met him. He got to know them. He spent more time with them. He's made these special touches we all talk about, handwritten notes, all the stuff we always talk about. Just to let you know that I'm still on it. This is today's handwritten notes and books and stuff. So it works. I send those out every day. And so he went up and he started making the call instead of waiting, getting it right, making sure everything's right. And over 7 years, he did nothing. When he finally got off his butt and went up and started making the calls, 6 months later, he had the account. 6 months later, he had an account. He was always worried about having his ducks in a row. He was always getting ready to fish and not fish. So life is dynamic. It doesn't mean that you just live in the moment and don't worry about your future, but you don't angst about your future because you don't control your future. The only thing you control is what's happening today. You certainly can prepare for the future, and you can try to learn and educate yourself. And as I've shared, it's great to read. And by the way, again, one of the special reads you want is to get the book Self-Talk, written by me, and I'd be happy to send it to you. That's book@deanakers.com. And if you'll read this book, it'll give you some good ideas, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, worrying about getting your ducks in a row all the time is not that critical. Now, I had somebody tell me one day, well, I asked him recently, well, if you're always worried about getting your ducks in a row, what's keeping you from it? And they said, time, Dean. I don't have enough time. And I said, time is the only thing that's dynamic. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. Nobody gets more or less except 2 days in our life when we're born and in. So I showed him a trick that I do with all my ninjas. I have a kitchen timer that I set for 10 minutes. And what I do is I just let it run for 10 minutes. Now, today with technology, I use my iPhone and I'll set it for 10 minutes. And we'll let it go for 10 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll just stare at each other. We'll literally stare at each other. And if you want to have an eye-opening experience on what time's all about, get one of these or use this for 10 minutes, sit there and just stare at somebody else or stare at the wall for 10 minutes, and it'll seem like eternity. So if you budget 10 minutes a day, that's how you can write a book. That's how you can finish brochures. That's how you can write those handwritten notes. That's how you do the things that are outside your comfort zone, because you're not waiting till everything's perfect, all your ducks in a row, and you're not always worried about getting ready. By the way, 10 minutes a day, 7 days a week, 52, it ends up being 60 hours a year. 60 hours a year. 60 hours a year. Think about it. That's a lot of time. 360 hours a year. So, I had a friend this past week, or an acquaintance that passed away, and he had the epitome of wealth. He was always working on striving to make his wealth greater so that one day he'd have it all and be able to enjoy it. Well, he passed this past week, and I can tell you he was successful in his wealth. He wasn't successful in enjoying his entire life. Now, some may make argument to that and stuff, but I know that while a lot of people are focused on one thing, if they'll focus on the moment and the day and making sure that they're enjoying their life and experiencing that life is dynamic, at the end of the day, they will have had a more full life. Now, I'm not going to guess whether people would debate whether he had a full life or not. I can tell you that having met the man and know the man briefly, that he missed some of the great qualities of life by worrying about getting his tackle ready and having this great wealth. So let's live today. Make your life dynamic. Make your life dynamic. Do you need all your ducks in a row? My answer's no. Reflect back on your life. When you've had all your ducks in a row, have you accomplished anything? My bet is no. My bet is you've had bumps in the road, and when you assess those bumps in the road and go back, you'll learn that you really don't need to have all your ducks in a row. So I would challenge you to go out this week and not worry about having your ducks in a row, but worry about making your life dynamic. And instead of getting ready to fish, start fishing. Instead of having all your hunting gear and cleaning it and getting ready, go hunt. Instead of talking about getting the perfect brochures and the perfect email and the perfect time and the perfect appointment, go see a customer. Make your life dynamic. Make your life dynamic, and don't worry about having all your ducks in a row. So have a great week. Talk to you next week.
We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe today to our podcast and send questions or thoughts to help@deanacres.com. Also, visit us at www.deanacres.com to listen to prior shows and view helpful videos. Also, great tips to download. Thanks again. See you next week.